nerds, what's up? Today I'm going to talk to you guys about the Siege of Treboulain by Jed Herne, which is basically like a new choose your own adventure, but for adults. Now, if you're around the self-published community, you'll know Jed Herne's name, and I have previously reviewed one of his books, The Thunder Heist, on my channel, so when he reached out about this new project, I was very interested. As a quick overview, the Siege of Treboulain is basically about a ruler trying to deal with religion and politics and an attack from an enemy army in a fantasy city. Now that might sound like a pretty typical fantasy story, but being able to put yourself in the shoes of the monarch and actually affect the story makes it feel very different. So I was serious when I said that this is an adult fantasy novel, except in a choose your own adventure format. You'll get to play and read and have multiple options for each situation on what you want to do. And every decision you make will actually affect the outcome of the story and the outcome of every encounter that you are choosing. And when I say for adults, I mean it because there's like more options. It's a full-length fantasy novel, and there's some extra complications thrown in that I'm going to talk about. You're also playing as a single main character, and unlike the choose your own adventure stories that from our youth that are just kind of like a blank canvas, you get to make a lot of decisions about the personality of the person you're being, and those personality decisions make a difference for what happens later. You'll also get to choose things like how you feel about political movements or romances and start a romance, which is obviously much more involved and personal than those typical choose your own adventures. So when you first start the Siege of Treboulain, you'll kind of do a few starting decisions that kind of help you develop maybe the personality you're going for. And then you'll get to choose things like the name of your character, what you want to be referred to, your pronouns, who you're interested in as romantic partners, and really start shaping who you are. I did really like that they gave so many options on those parameters, and even the option to enter something yourself if you're wanting to play something very specific. So during my first playthrough, I played as Sovereign Elwyn, and I kind of chose like maybe the bookish scholarly person, which was a fun person to play, and usually who I choose to play on my first run through in any sort of thing like this. And choosing that made some things more open to me and some things more close to me, and then I had to decide how I was going to use that to deal with the threat to my magical city. The story obviously unfolds more from there. Now, one of the things I loved the most about this, and it'll be no surprise, is when I discovered the stats page. You basically get real-time updates on several aspects of the game. I'm showing you an earlier stats page, as stats do get added as you play the game, and I don't want to give those parts away, but you get to see the various aspects of your personality, like how you lead, what factions you have support of, your city's health, etc. And this ends up being a very important aspect of the game because it decides how successful or unsuccessful you are at things. For fun, even before I was done with my first playthrough, I went back to the beginning and played as a completely different character just because I was kind of curious how it worked out. So I chose like someone super different, and my choices had to be different. In fact, there was one scene where I chose the same thing as my first character, and it was successful the first time I played through, and the second time it failed because my stats didn't support me making the decision with that person. I didn't have enough rapport on my second playthrough with that group. And so that was really cool, like being able to see like how your decisions affect what you choose. And once I got an understanding of my stats, it started helping me choose things in the future to hopefully be more successful, because I started realizing I had to understand like, what did I give as my strengths and what were my weaknesses, and how were those decisions affecting what I could choose? That was like obviously one of the funnest parts for me. And for completionists, there's also this cool achievements page with lots of different achievements that you can unlock. And this also helps with multiple playthrough like playability, because you can't really unlock all the stats on your first playthrough. And so it's kind of fun to try to successfully get those. I'll be honest, this was just like a lot of fun. I just had a lot of fun doing this. Is it gonna necessarily give you like the same emotional investment as a full-length fantasy novel? No, but I just loved those choose your own adventures as a kid, and having the added complication of more decisions and stats, and having you fail or succeed based on previous decisions that you've made, unlike a typical choose your own adventure, just made it really exciting and fun. Now, you could for sure read this through like you would a normal novel. I personally had fun just leaving it up on my screen. Now, it does have a save function, but I just left it up and just played at small moments throughout my day. Like when I had 5 or 10 minutes, I'd go and make some decisions and read through. And it was a fun substitute for like maybe doom scrolling or other things I would have done. And I like that sort of thing. I can just like fit into my day, but I was still experiencing like a fantasy novel and that sort of thing, which was fun. Sometimes I wish some of the options I chose affected the story a little more. On multiple playthroughs, I noticed there were many decisions that just affected my stats page and not necessarily the story itself, but I feel like that only matters if you're very invested on multiple playthroughs, which I ended up doing, versus just one, which I definitely didn't notice as much, and it was like very fun. So if this sounds interesting, and I personally would highly recommend it, it's a great way to support the indie fantasy community, but also just have like a lot of fun doing something a little different. And like for me, because it didn't necessarily feel like reading, and I have been in a teensy bit of a reading slump in the last few days, it was kind of a nice change of pace. This does come out tomorrow, April 14th, 2022, just in case you're watching this video in the future. I will leave the link below in the description box on where you can get it, because there's multiple formats that you can get it in, but they do give you the first 3 chapters free, which I think is a really great way to see if you would enjoy it or not, because the first 3 chapters are like decently long and get you enough through the story to see where it's going. And if you like it, the first week it's available, so April 14th through the 20th, they're gonna have a discount, so it'll only be $3.99 to buy, and it will go to $5.99 hereafter. I'd really love to know if you end up trying this out, because I only did 2 playthroughs, one as like a scholar and one as like a total rude swordsman. And so if you choose a different kind of character, I'd like to know how things were or weren't successful for you, especially if you choose to be a magical character, since I didn't, and I wonder how that turns out. Let me know if you enjoy this kind of experience, and tell me if you know those choose your own adventures I'm talking about, and tell me which one was your favorite. As always, if you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe. That is the best way to support me. And if you want to see what I'm currently reading, as well as other nerdy rants, you can check me out on Instagram at bookborn.reviews. I'll see you next time. Bye.